want him to come here and change the whole world also. Anyway, go ahead.
Hello everyone, I'm Leo Yankton, and I just want you to know that I feel a little bit insecure right now, sitting up next to Frank Lemire speaking and in front of Zachary Bear Heels' family, but in the same sense, I feel very angry right now, and experiencing, just by witnessing what happened, I feel the fear of what it would have been like to be in that situation, trapped. And I feel like I am Zachary Bear Heels, and I feel like all of you are Zachary Bear Heels, and this could happen to any one of us any day of the week. And if they don't hold people like Scotty Payne accountable for what he did, then it's more likely that we will be the next Zachary Bear Heels. And that's why I feel like it's so important that we're all here right now. Because I got a lot of people on Facebook that were telling me, I'm going to send you prayers. But I told them, I said, we needed you in the courtroom, you know. I was there for a few days, and then I had to go to a cancer hospital. You know, that was extremely important enough to where I had to pull myself away, but I felt like I needed to be there, and I felt like I wish I could have been there till the end, and I felt like it's not over yet. And so, you know, with the family not speaking right now on this, they're still fighting this. They're still trying to hold them accountable for what they did. And guess what? Frank Lemire is still trying to hold them accountable, and I'm going to be making efforts to hold them accountable for what they did, but we're only a few. So everyone here needs to be working together to build this up, to make sure it doesn't happen to me or to happen to you, to where we are not the next Zachary Bear Heels who was lost. He was lost. He wasn't running around causing trouble. He was speaking to himself because he was frustrated, he was scared, and he was lost in Omaha, Nebraska. This is a man who was just traveling through the state and was killed by the people who are supposed to protect us. Okay? Do I hate police? No, I don't hate police. I'm dealing with the police here in Lincoln, but one of the police officers came up to me and told me, hey, Leo, you know, I heard you had cancer and I'm worried about you, how you doing? And he's known me since I was a teenager in high school here, and I love that man. He's been a sheriff here forever. He's getting ready to retire soon. And so it's not about us against them. It's about the system making it to where we can be safe and we can be treated as equals and we can be seen as someone who's not a threat just because we are brown and have black hair, or just because of the class, financial class that we're living in, or if we have a mental illness. A mental illness. So no, I'm not going to let this go. You know, just because a court says that he's not guilty, that doesn't make it reality. The reality is that a young man got let off a bus traveling from South Dakota to Oklahoma, and he was killed by the people who were supposed to protect him. He was killed not for committing a crime, but for standing at a place lost, not knowing what to do next. And then if you look at what happened with the court, oh man, what happened with the court was a horrific injustice. I mean, if you think about it, so this Sergeant Forehead, and excuse my terminology right now, okay, Sergeant Forehead, there was another officer who got up on stand and said Sergeant Forehead was referring to Zachary Bear Heels as a fucking retard. That right there alone shows you the type of, and of course he denied it on stand, because who's going to incriminate themselves when they're in a position like that? But that kind of shows you the mentality that was already happening from the upper ranks. All right? So then you get these two officers who beat and tased him and caused him to die. And then this sergeant puts those exact same two officers in the ambulance with him. And then suggests that this is excited delirium. And for them to check his core temperature to validate that reasoning. So this wasn't the coroner's report, this was the sergeant's report, and this was the two officers' report that created this loophole that caused one of these officers, Scotty Payne, the first one to go to trial, to be found not guilty. Not only that, he goes out on public media afterwards and says he wants his job back. Where's your remorse? You just killed a man. If you don't have any remorse and you're feeling like you want to get right back in the saddle again so you can administer some more justice to the next person who gets lost or who has a mental illness and can't defend himself verbally, well, what's next? What's next for Scotty Payne? And I can't do it by myself. Like I said, I felt a little insecure about being up here because I don't know where my authority is, but I know I have a moral authority to be involved because it relates to me. Just like Frank says. Frank's accomplished, respected man in the community, but he said if he got into a situation where he was getting pulled over, he'd feel that same fear that I feel. And my plates on my vehicle are up to date. My insurance is up to date. My license is up to date. I don't drink alcohol. I don't use drugs. I don't have any weapons in my vehicle or on me. But as soon as they pop behind me or as soon as they start interacting with me, I will feel that fear of not knowing whether or not they are going to hurt me. And I don't want to feel that. So I do have a moral authority to be up here speaking, and I do have a moral authority to make sure that this doesn't just fade away because the jury said that he was not guilty. But I need your help. Okay, I have guidance from Frank, and Frank is going to be working on it from his end. But as grassroots, we need to work on it together too. We need to be calling the mayor's office. We need to be calling the chief of police and ask them, how are you going to hold them accountable? How are you going to change things? We can ask them some simple questions. We can write some simple letters. We can have other people that we know who are real productive and who can actually do this for us too to get involved as well. Because without that pressure, people who kill us are found not guilty. And then what? Then they get hired back on, or they go somewhere else. One of the other officers is already working in another town in Nebraska. But, if you look at who the expert witnesses were, one of the expert witnesses shot Micah Taylor, another native. He was sober. He was getting ready to go pick up an elder, and he was getting ready to go to a sweat lodge. And he got shot, and he's in jail with a bullet lodged in his neck right now. And I keep asking, is anybody talking about Micah Taylor right now? Is anybody checking on him? And people forget about it, But we can't let them forget about Zachary. We can't let them forget about Micah. And we can't let them forget about the expert witness who shot Micah, but was an expert witness in defense of Scotty Payne. That shows a circle of abuse. The chief of police, he noticed it. But still, you can't be complacent. You can't let it keep going. And just because these guys got caught, you're going to go ahead and throw them under the bus. But what about the rest of them? What about Sergeant Forehead? Why did that officer get on stand and risk perjury or risk the retaliation of the other officers to say that? To say that he called Zachary Bear Heels an effing retard? And that's the type of stuff we got to think about. Why was the two officers who beat and tased him in that ambulance? Why were they responsible for finding out what he died from when they're the ones who were subjecting him to so much abuse? We've all felt that abuse, even if it wasn't us personally. I have personally felt it. But I'm not afraid. Maybe I'm naive, but I feel less fear of the retaliation of me standing up about what these injustices is. I feel less fear of that than I do of it continuing to happen. And when is it going to happen to me next? Or when is it going to happen again to someone that I love next? And that's what's important. And that's why all of you here, it's more important that you're not just listening, but that you're helping come up with ideas on how we can change this, how we can put this pressure on them. Because I have a lot of energy and I'm willing to step up in front, but I still do need guidance. I don't have the experience that Frank has. And so Frank sometimes has to calm me down when I don't know what to do next. But I feel it, I feel it inside here, and that's why I'm here right now. Not because I have this extensive education on criminal justice, or not because I have this extensive connections with political leaders. That's not why I'm here. I'm here because I have energy in it, because I feel like I have a moral authority to make changes in not just my life, but all of our lives. Because I am Zachary Bear Heels, and you are Zachary Bear Heels. Because he is one of us. Regardless if you are non-native or if you're native, regardless if you have mental issues or you don't, regardless if you're rich or poor, you can be next. You can catch one of these officers on a bad day and get beat or tased to death. And then that officer can be found not guilty because he was the one who did the analyzing of why you died. Because that officer was the one who got to go into that ambulance and decide that he didn't kill you. Both officers who beat and tased Zachary Bear Heels got to decide for themselves that they didn't kill him. And then the coroner made that the official report. This isn't my hearsay. This is all came out in court. There's records of this. And yet, he still got found not guilty. So we have to work together, okay? Because I don't have the answers, but I'm going to keep trying. And I'm looking for ways that we can work with the police too, to hold these people accountable, and let's bring some natives into the force. You know, let's talk to some of the youth and let them know that you're not somebody that's bad, or you're not somebody that's going to be shunned by the community if you decide to become a police officer, because we need you in there. Because maybe if there was a native officer in there, he could have related to Zachary and said, hey, I know this place you can go. I know where there's these natives that will help you. Let me give you this number. You know what I mean? And that's how I look at it. Like, we got to integrate. We got to start working together, and we got to start getting into these positions to where that we can make a change and that we can have a voice. And that's important. And I'm so glad that so many of you are here today, because there was only a few of us in the courtroom the few times that I had showed up, and a few times before that. You know, and the more of us that show up, the more of us that put this pressure, the more change we can make, the more effect we can have. And so that's important. And it's important that we realize that it's all of us, that we are representing each other, not the person that passed away, not the family that lives in another state. We're representing each other. And we have to look past race, we have to look past class, we have to look past differences, and we got to start working together on that. And that's how I feel. So my thing that I ask all of you is, if you have some ideas for me, or if you have some things that maybe I can help you with because you want to do something, let me know, because I have a lot of energy and I'm ready. And I feel I have a moral authority, and I feel you do too. You know, when Frank goes and speaks to the chief of police or to the mayor's office, it's not done. It just started. And that's why we need to work as well at doing the same thing. Because just because he goes as one voice, that doesn't make it enough. But if we go in hordes and we contact them and we let them know that we're not happy with what's happening, and we find ways to make them accountable, and we find ways to fix these problems, that's when it's going to be enough. And that's going to take some time, it's going to take some effort, and it's going to take us getting out of our comfort zone, just like Frank said. And that's a big thing, is I'm going to say it one more time. If you have some ideas, if you have some things that you would like to see me do even, let me know, because that's where we're at right now. We're trying to figure out the best way to hold them accountable and to fix these problems that are causing us to get abused, to get killed. I named two. I named Zachary, I named Micah. Well, what about right here in Lincoln? You know, I have a federal lawsuit against the state. I have a federal lawsuit against the police here in Lincoln with officers that were forced to resign. But you know what the state attorney told me? The state attorney told me that they allowed this officer who abused me and my family, who's going to trial for sexual assaulting a mentally handicapped woman as well, that they allowed him to resign because he needed to get his pension, because he earned his pension. You know, you can see right there that the whole thought process has worked. Because how would you even tell a victim that? How would you tell a victim that the person that victimized you, that was forced to resign from the police force, deserved his pension? So the state's paying him. My tax money, your tax money is paying him, even though he's no longer on the force. You know, these officers all resigned. They were allowed to resign. One of them went and got another job somewhere, and that's what we got to deal with. That's what we have to change. Because as long as other officers can watch these officers do that and get away with it, they're going to keep sneaking around behind cameras and doing it. Luckily, there was a camera there, but it still didn't matter. It wasn't enough. So we have to unify, and we have to work together, and that's the only way we're going to change it. Not just this group here, people watching. You know, people that are on Facebook. Those people that are listening on the outside who couldn't come here today. We need all of you in order to make this effective. Because Frank can't do it by himself. If he could, I wouldn't be sitting up here. I couldn't be doing it by myself, or I wouldn't be pleading with you to help me. Because I need help. And I'm going to keep fighting. And in 10 years from now, I want to be making sure that there's still efforts being made to make changes for us to be safe and to be successful and to be happy, because, you know, the historical trauma that we've been dealing with is still going on today. And that's what we got to change, because we don't want our kids to be all hurt and messed up and abused by the system and by ourselves. So with that, I want to thank you. And if you want to speak to me afterwards, I appreciate that as well. I'm going to let Frank close.